All right, so let's explore users and groups, which is going to be the core of this lesson. So users and groups, let's define some of these entities. So we have a user, which is an account that can log in and interact with the system. This is pretty much identical, right, to your Windows computer, to your Mac computer. You log in as different users, right? You might have your own account if you're sharing it with your family, maybe your brother or sister, your mom or dad. If you're at school, right, you'll see multiple accounts pop up sometimes when you're trying to log into that. Same thing with Linux, of course, right? The catch is we can do a lot of this work through the command line. So each user will have its own permissions, a home directory. As you see, right, if you're using VBox user, for example, or insert your own username there, you'll have your own home directory where all your files exist, which is again true of Windows computers. Just to remind you, right? Here's like a Windows computer. If I go to my local drive, right, we have users, and here is one of my users here, right? I'm the only one that uses this computer, so that's all I have. So you can consider this the same as the home directory, right, but in Windows. All right, so let's see. We do have different types of users in Linux. We have regular users, so they have limited permissions, typically created by your admins, right, the people running a system, your IT team during installation. We have system users, so those are accounts created by the operating system to run core services. So these aren't really users. They're more like you can think of them as robots, right, that do some of the important work for the OS. Remember, in the background. So those aren't, the typical users that you think of. Think of those as like the robot users that the operating system uses. And then we have our root users. So that's the very top, very, very top user. They can do everything they want, which of course can be dangerous, right? Because as root user, you can modify things, you can insert files where you shouldn't, you can delete files that you shouldn't. So it should be limited to the correct people. So yeah, that's root user, the highest level. And then we have our regular users at the bottom. So groups in Linux, well, if you want to manage multiple users at a time, you make a group. So it makes it really easy to manage what those users can do by managing, 5, 10, 20 different users at once. If you're in a tech company, right, you're going to have maybe your software team. Maybe you'll have your user design team. Maybe you'll have your backend team, your database team. So you have different teams, right? And they should have access to different files, different scripts, right? Different directories. So you can manage that really, really quickly by using groups. So if you had 100 users, but only 3 groups, then you don't have to run these, permission actions 3 times, one for each group. If you didn't have the groups, then you'd have to do it 100 times, which would be totally crazy. So types of groups, we have a primary group, which is the default group assigned to all users. So when you create a user, you'll have a group that has the same name as the user. So VBox user is part of the VBox user group. Secondary groups, those are additional or supplemental groups used to grant users with extra permissions. You can have any number of secondary groups. So maybe I'm, William Bidas is my user, right? But I can belong to the software team. And if I'm a full stack engineer, right? If I'm working on multiple teams, maybe I'm working on the front end team, the database team. So that's where those extra groups can help. So sudo is actually a group. So sudo is a group of users that have been given elevated privileges. We're going to be using sudo a lot during this class. So sudo is a safer way to give people elevated permissions without just giving them the root access. So root access is like if you gave them, the keys, the master key to the entire building. That can be, a little dangerous, right? If you gave every single person that needed special privileges that master key, maybe they're gonna do things they shouldn't do. Um, it's just too much power. Now, if you want to give them those privileges, right, but you still kind of want to track them, then you're definitely going to want to add them to the sudo group. So the sudo group is kind of a gateway to that master key without giving them, not unrestricted access, but unsupervised access, as we're going to see in a second. So yeah, a user can only run sudo if they've been explicitly added to the sudo group. There is a file that specifies which users are in that group. So that's how it keeps track of it, the operating system. And all users with sudo access will have their username listed in that file. By doing that, you can actually keep track, right? Hey, who is doing what? Because if you run things as root, there's actually no supervision when you're the root user. We call this logging. So whenever you perform an action as a root user, there's actually no logging on that action. You're so elevated in permissions that the operating system is not actually tracking what you're doing. Now sudo, it's like I'm giving you the key, but I'm also giving you a badge, right? That's tracking what you're doing. So sudo's a little bit a safer, more controlled way to give users elevated access. It reduces risk of errors, right? Increases security, and you can still limit who runs those privileged commands. When you just write down the root password and everyone's just using it, then it's hard to see right who did what. Versus with sudo, I'm still going to be able to see, oh, William Bidas deleted this file. So and so created this directory. So and so ran this script. So sudo's just that extra layer of security rather than just giving everyone the master key and letting them go crazy. So in this demo, I'll be covering how to add yourself to the sudoers group. So it's a little bit of a specific process for the VM. So definitely watch this video before moving on to the rest of the lesson.